It's great to take a classic and just make it your own and express it how it speaks to you. That's all we're really supposed to be doing in this lifetime, you know. We all have the same inspiration. One presence, one power, we call it. One life, one love. Undeniable, and yet it takes on a variety of forms, and we get to honor this, what we came here with, by letting it be an authentic expression of that. It's so easy to forget that, isn't it? So easy to forget that because we seem to have these voices in our head that are sort of constantly sort of mediating our expression or making comment on how we're doing. Does anyone have that voice? It's always sort of like, you know, like you have like a little, not an editor, but a commentator. A commentator who's just always like, oh, why did you say that? Or why is she wearing that? Or what is that? And oh gosh, that was stupid. And you know, there's no one there. And we talk back to that voice. Have you noticed? I mean, it's one thing to be hearing voices. That's maybe strange enough. It's another thing to realize that we talk back to that. Oh, be quiet. That's judgmental. Don't say that. So you're having now, if you walk into a public place and there's someone who's talking out loud and they're not with a companion and they are answering them back, answering themselves back, you might think that they are strange, for example. But the only difference between them and us is that they're doing it out loud and we're doing it in our head, right? So I got to spend 3 days at Casa de Maria and a little retreat that I gave myself last week. And I got to tell you that I really got to hear the voice. And it was good up to a point. It's like, oh, good, I'm able to hear the voice. And then after a while, it was like, it's kind of like, do you remember when you first maybe had a roommate for the first time and maybe it was your best friend and you said, let's get a place together. And at first it was great and you loved hanging out together. Then over time, little things began to grate on you and you wish that they would move out. Well, that's kind of how the experience I had. 3 days being with me and the voices. At first it was like, you know, I was filled with an intention to have a wonderful time and I didn't want to, you know, make waves with whatever was appearing because, you know, this is the spiritual teaching. Make peace and just embrace whatever arises and, you know, and be with it. And so I came with that intention. But after a while, there was this nagging sense that I needed to get rid of the voice. And then I realized that for all of us, that voice, although it seems to be an irritant oftentimes, it's also something we came by honestly. In other words, that voice is seemingly trying to protect you by giving you sort of precautionary advice and suggestions to keep you out of trouble. And so I guess in that sense, I could sort of make peace with the voice. And the more that I sort of said, okay, that probably I'm not going to get rid of the voice, the roommate's not moving out, I'm going to have to, it's just going to be there. Then as I just sort of let it be there, then it began to get quieter. And as it got quieter, then I began to listen to that which did not have a voice, which you may say, well, how can you listen to that which does not have a voice? And that's really the deeper truth of our being, which is the voiceless presence. It's that which, without commentary, is able to experience the vast variety of experiences that we have in life. And sometimes you hear it called the witness. The witness. So today, I wanted to talk to you about the biggest existential question of all, which you may have already guessed. Who am you? No, who am I? Who am you? Who are you? Who am I? This was intimated in one of the questions that you gave to me, and I thought it would be a good place to start. By the way, many of you submitted, well, there wasn't that many questions submitted. There was maybe 8 questions submitted. And many of you thought that it was at a time to ask questions about the church and what's going on with the church. And it really wasn't intended for that. So what I would suggest that if you have a question about the church, come see me or a board member or send an email with your name on it. Would be, and we will gladly reply and respond to your questions about the church. But this was really seeking those big spiritual life questions that we're all really wanting to grok and understand and work through. So today I'm going to work with who am I, because that's what I work with for 3 days, and I work with every day of my life. Anyone else in that category? It's a slippery slope to stand on, is it not? That some days you just absolutely know to the depth of you, you feel grounded in the truth of your being, and you're very clear of who you are, and then you walk into another situation, and suddenly there's doubt about that person that you thought you were. Well, what I know is that what we are is not a what. That's what came to me. We're not a what. The way the mind likes to work, it likes to objectify things, So we tend to see things as being discrete, concrete objects, then we can understand them. The rational mind really can only work with objects, and it can analyze them and study them, and of course that's what science does, and particularly the old science idea was that the universe is made up of a bunch of moving parts and discrete, separate objects. And that if you could just understand all the laws of how all of these things relate to each other, then you could understand all of reality. And of course, quantum physics came along and just blew a big hole in that whole theory. It began to say, no, when you get right down to it, the very smallest elements of life, of reality, of matter, is not solid. These are not objects. It is what? It's energy. I was like, oh, great. So the rational mind its eyes get crossed with the idea that it's energy, because how do we deal with something that is so nebulous, what's that word? Say it again? Amorphous. That's exactly the word I was looking for. Thank you for reading my intelligent part of my mind that was not speaking to me at the moment. Thank you that it came through you. And that's how it can work. It takes a village to do these talks, so we're grateful. So the rational mind wants to objectify and quantify things, and it can't do that, and so it says, even for that which can't be quantified, that which can't be objectified, I'm going to objectify it anyway so that I can understand it. And so we make this amorphous, energetic presence or experience, we make it into a grandfather that's up in the sky with a long white beard, who is making a list of the naughty and nice, and on a good day is blessing, and gets on the wrong side of heaven and begins to judge. And we do that because it seems to fit with what we understand, and we understand we understand love, but we only understand it in comparison to the absence of love. And so we can only make a creator that loves and curses and is here for you today, and then will turn its back on you if you don't behave in a certain way. So this is how, by letting the rational mind run the show, then we have created our understanding of reality in a very separating way, haven't we? Yes, because we just see that all of life can be understood in objects, and including God, And so in the meantime, there is this part of us which remains unexamined. Knowing thyself, knowing ourself, is to go beyond the appearances out here and this. And it forces us, sort of when we come to the end of our journey, which for oftentimes it's very much like the prodigal son, that we cannot find happiness in this world of objects. No matter how many objects we get, how nice the objects are, whether those objects are people or situations, when that no longer serves us anymore, then we get spun around. Jesus called it repenting, which is to turn around. And when we turn around, then we glimpse this, what we can only call the invisible, amorphous field. Because when we realize that even that voice that speaks in our head, which of course has no form, but maybe has a semblance of form because it comes in a language that we understand, but that we realize there's some part of us that's listening. I don't know if you all know this story. Eckhart Tolle talks about his spiritual awakening. And he was in depression for many years, or I don't know how many years, maybe a couple of years. And when this all sort of broke open for him was when he was so bereft. He was so deeply, there was so much angst in him, so much difficulty being with himself, that he said this. He actually thought this. He said, I cannot live with myself any longer. Now, you may have said that before. Maybe we've all said it, perhaps. But what happened for him is he recognized the duality of that statement. And it struck him like striking a bell of clarity. Who is this I that can't live with this self? And who is this self that the I can't live with? Are there two of me? And it was that sort of spun him into this vortex of awakening. You kind of, he went down the rabbit hole, to begin to understand who he really was. Because he knew he couldn't be two. He knew that he was only one, as you are and I am. There is a oneness to us. But separating the false self from the true self is the spiritual journey. I mean, that is the foundational question that, if answered truthfully, honestly, and clearly, is our liberation. No less than that. So it's such an important inquiry. It isn't just, someone asking you when you graduated from high school or college, so what do you want to do with your life? Who are you? How do you see yourself? Butcher, baker, candlestick maker, doctor, lawyer, accountant. I mean, that pales in comparison to the importance of the question of who you fundamentally are. So when I do get to go away on these retreats, that question becomes essential for the time that I'm away. And what happens after that voice begins to quiet down, there then becomes a greater appreciation of the one who can even listen to the voice. Because you and I, anything that we can experience, let's just say this, that which can be heard and seen is not the seer. What we're interested in is the one who can observe, who actually is having the experience. And that's a step back from who we think we are. Because we think oftentimes that we are all of these experiences in our life, and then when we go beyond these circumstances and the biology and the biography, then we begin to think, oh, well, I'm my thoughts. But are you your thoughts? If you can become conscious of your thoughts, who is the one who is experiencing your thoughts? And that's the part of us that we never look at. We never go to that length of understanding. And that's what all the great sages, all the great mystics, all the great teachers of the perennial wisdom have said you must do. You must know the one who witnesses this life. Because that's the part of you that truly is the spiritual reality of your being. And that's the part of us that can never be assailed, that's never been perturbed, that's never been jealous or angry or vengeful or conditionally loving. Because that's the part of us that does not ride the roller coaster of ups and downs. It's not the part of us that deals in discrete objects. It's the quantum awareness in which there is no separation, that there is an essential oneness and unity. This is the love, the power, the presence of God manifested as us, experienced as us, not even through us, but as us. The awareness, that kind of awareness, is the macro perspective in which we realize, as I said last Sunday, that there is no limits, there's no binding in time or in space. Do you remember that? We did that last week. We looked at that part of ourselves and realized that when we close our eyes and we look at that aware presence that we have, that we can find no boundaries where that field of awareness ends. It has no bounds. And that we can put ourselves in the past when we were in a situation anywhere along this so-called past that we've had, or anywhere in the so-called future, and we can imagine what it would feel like to experience that presence then and then. And know that it's not bound in time. And when we begin to look at those things and we begin to understand those things which cannot be bound in time or in space, now we are talking about the eternal, the ethereal, the truth. Those experiences cannot be contained. And those experiences demonstrate the vastness of being. And that's why we meditate, for example, so that we can touch into that place. A lot of people think, we meditate so that you can learn how to watch your breath, or meditate away that person, or get rid of some emotions. All those things may come, and those are actually not bad things. If you want to work with some difficult emotions, you may become more peaceful. You may become more a sense of going with the flow of life. But really, the fruits of meditation are to experience what Eckhart experienced, what we can all experience, which is that part of us, that eye, that big eye, that observes the experiences of life and is not affected by it. So, wow, is it only 10:15? I thought I'd been up here for a long time. See what happens, time and space, it's just, wow. Yeah, I was kind of not looking forward to opening my mouth after I came out of this meditation for a few days. I thought, could be interesting speaking on Sunday when I really just want to Om with you. Just want to Om. It'd be plenty for me, but I don't think it'd be enough for you. So here we go. So what we're interested in is having an identity of who I am that's connected with that which is true, which has nothing to do with what they said about us. Do we have some baggage left over from who they said we were? Huh? Yeah. And that's not easy stuff to get rid of. So there's two ways, you can deal with it, and I'm in favor of all of them, but what I'm talking about today here is it's metaphysical. But there is the therapeutic approach. Don't we all know about that? At least I do. You have therapy and you go counseling, and so you begin to work with the stories that you believe, the stories that you still tell about yourself, right? That tells you who you are. And those stories that were conclusions that you drew based upon how the feedback that you got in relationship to how you were just showing up. For example, and we all know this one, you're enthusiastic and you're 5 years old and you start yelling and jumping up and down and making, gleeful, joyful noises, and a parent or an adult figure says, shh, quiet, we're trying to talk. So you get the idea, oh, maybe that's not so good to jump up and down and be gleeful and joyous. You take that in as feedback. So we all know, and of course we all did the best we could as parents and as children. But now there's something else that needs to be done here And it's besides just reparenting ourselves, which is to begin to change the story that we're making up about ourselves and realizing that, who we have come here to be is the expression of love and joy, and to give ourselves permission to do that. And then there's also what's perhaps standing in the way of that is that we see ourselves as these physical beings, and we see the limits that come with that. But you and I are not just physical beings. And the upper limit problem is only because we believe that we are these physical beings. And the way we blow the ceiling off this place, besides having Gino sing, is really to recognize that there is a greater sense of who we are, and to break the false ceiling of the false self, which is possible for us when we begin to do this work. And this work has to do with no longer believing what's not true about yourself, sort of pressing up on these upper limits of who we think we are, which are this is usually made of fear. Do you know this one? This, as far as I can push here, it's fear-based. It's made out of fear. Now, fear is what they say, false evidence appearing real, which means, other than if a lion's about ready to eat you, most of it's unjustified. And so it's really recognizing that this sense that we are only this is a false ceiling. It's a false sense of who we are. So we begin to dance with what wants to emerge through us. We begin to embrace this sense of greater creativity that when it was capped maybe at a younger age, now there's no one capping it, but who? Well, you and me. We're still believing a story, and we get to choose now whether that story is true. We may have taken it in as a cellular level as truth when we were younger, and we felt we needed to do that in order to get that love, and that acceptance that we were looking for. But I guarantee that most of us are living in a life where we can be who we've come here to be. Yes? We can be who we've come here to be. And if people have a real problem with that, as long as we're not really messing up someone with that expression, then stand aside, right? Because we need to be who we've come here to be. My marital counseling will really get better, I'm sure, after this talk today. But I believe that, and I've gone through that rocky road in my own life with my wife. And that sort of emerging of this, this is who I am now. Oh, really? Well, how's that going to work for me? And that's all part of it. But that doesn't mean we all sort of stay in this cocoon of the false self, right? So I want to share this story with you. I pray I haven't told you this one before. It's been a while now since we've been together. I risk repeating myself. Don't stop me if you've heard it, because I have nothing else to finish my talk with, and it's just too perfect. So here it is. So two caterpillars are hanging out together. Okay? And one asks the other one the proverbial question, who am I? Who am I? Right? We all ask. Caterpillars ask it, we ask. So the other caterpillar says, well, that's a silly question. You're a caterpillar. Have you not looked in the mirror lately? Oh. But the other one, being a little bit more philosophical, says, yeah, but is that really all that I am? Of course that's all you are. You're a caterpillar. Grow up. Well, I don't know. I just feel like there's something more to me. There's a deeper sense of who I am, and I think that I could be more. But I don't know what it is. It's not leaving me alone. It's bugging me. Bad humor is part of anything I write. Yes, and the other one says, you're bugging me. So just get off of it. Are you going to that new church? Are you going to that Unity Church in Santa Barbara? That place where they're putting all those ideas in you that you're so much more than you think you are? Don't you know that you just crawl along the ground? You're a caterpillar. It's in the dust down here where you belong. That's who you are. So get yourself back to reality. Get your head out of the clouds. The other one says, you might be right, but there's something that tells me that I'm more than that. At that moment, a butterfly flies overhead. The caterpillar, the visionary one, points at, says, look at that. Look, look. The other caterpillar looks up and says, yeah, a butterfly, so what? The other one says, doesn't that just make you want to fly? Will you ever get over it? You're a caterpillar. That is a butterfly. Caterpillars crawl on the ground, butterflies fly, and there's no connection between the two. The other one says, but I'm beginning to believe, because I've been going to Unity of Santa Barbara, that there is. I don't know what it is, but there's something waking up in me. And when I ask the question, who am I now? What I'm getting is a deeper sense. The pat answers don't satisfy me anymore. They feel incomplete, like it's not the whole truth anymore. And I'm beginning to feel like there's some connection between me down here crawling along and what's going on up there that makes me feel like maybe we could fly. If we could just get the owner's manual, yeah? Let's get out the scriptures, the ancient text. Somewhere in there, I bet it tells us how we too can learn to fly. Oh, geez, now you've really lost it. I'm out of here. Oh, no, wait. I'm feeling, I'm being drawn to go to higher ground. So I'm going to climb up that tree and just see what it feels like from that level. So the caterpillar climbs a tree and goes out on a branch. The other one is down below, just shaking his head. I told you not to go there. I told you not to go and get into those silly teachings. You've got yourself all confused now. You're in woo-woo land. Get back down here. This is the truth, and this is who you are. And get your feet planted firmly in the dust and get back to crawling. That's the part you are to play. No, come on up. It's great. I can see better up here. The possibilities. Do you know how big the world is? I can see so far, and I think the possibilities are unlimited. Come on up. Caterpillar down below, just shaking his head and walks away. He can't see it. And then the caterpillar in the tree branch begins to get quiet. He begins to meditate. He becomes very centered. And his friend looks back, and as he's walking away, goes, oh, brother, now he's doing that wooey meditating thing. He has really lost it. But the other stays on the branch. And he sits long enough that he stops waiting for an answer. He stops having an expectation for how it's going to turn out. He's just willing to sit with the question. He's willing to sit in the quiet of his own being with an understanding that he is willing to know more of who he is, and that only when he gets quiet, when the monkey/caterpillar mind quiets down, can he realize the deeper truth. And it begins to get darker. It begins to become encased in a deeper truth of his own being. And at some point, he can't see any light. And he develops a solace in the darkness, a solitude that has comfort. As he senses that beyond the darkness, there will be a great change, a new birth for him. And so he stays there as long as it takes. Until one day there's a little slit, a little sliver of light comes through. And then he finds that he can begin to move through that opening. And he discovers that he has wings. And he realized that he is not the same. He's no longer earthbound, and he soars with the awareness of his true nature, and he realizes that he has become what he was destined to become. And he stole no one's birthright. He just demonstrated his own. And his friend is down on the ground, and he sees this beautiful butterfly, and he says, "Ah, that's so beautiful. That's the most beautiful butterfly I have ever seen. Could it be?" Nah. Let's take a moment. So I just invite you to crawl up in this tree with me for a moment. I invite you to just let go of those stories. Just, there's been all kinds of things said about who we are from people who did not know themselves who they were. But then there's been a few masters who have said who you are. Jesus said, "You are the light of the world." I'm going to go with the master. How about you? So in this time when we work, we go inward, can you find that light? Can you find what has been commonly called awareness? It may be a deep part of you, but it's the part of you that always could say this: I know that I am. Regardless of what came after I am, there was always just the fundamental knowing. I am. It's a sense of being yourself. That has nothing to do with what you are, your body, your biography. Just the sense of knowing that you exist. Put your attention on this knowing. Put attention on attention of knowing yourself. This is the light that enlightens every man and woman who comes into the world, as Jesus said. This is the existential truth of our being. And it has no limits. It is one with the infinite intelligence of the universe, unconditional love, peace that passes human understanding, all these divine qualities that we talk about. This is all found in this field, in this identification with pure conscious awareness. This is divine presence, individualized as you. So when you seek to know the answer to the question, who am I? Make sure that you don't answer it until you've touched this sense of being. Because this part of you is the part of you that has never been harmed, limited, obstructed, or delayed in any way, shape, or form. And it will be the part of you that will see you through all of life. It is the part of you that will drive your evolution, that will be the motivation for your growth, for becoming all that you have come here to be. It will be the spiritual DNA that will allow you to sprout wings, whatever that may look like in your life. And with those wings, no matter where it takes you in the physical world, it will take you to freedom. And so we thank you, Spirit, that you are alive and well in us, and through us, as this divine presence. We are grateful for knowing the deeper truth that can truly set us free. We know that your eye is on our unfolding, and that your Spirit guides and directs this grand transformation that is ours in the making, right here and right now. And so it is. Amen.